So let's talk about mental health. And you go, well, mental health can actually what? Affect my risk of breast cancer? How is that possible? Well, some habits, patterns, and addictive behaviors may be causing us to increase the risk of breast cancer, right? We know that. We know that the habits of perhaps emotional eating, yes, eating a lot of sugars and carbs that we crave when we are upset, habits of having a sedentary lifestyle. Some of these habits may be a little bit self-destructive, such as smoking, overworking. Let's not underestimate that. Compulsive eating, drinking alcohol, even self-medicating, and the use of recreational drugs in order to kind of like compensate or help us, as we know from Dr. Gabor Mate, with being able to deal with the existence of trauma. So these behaviors are often due to life circumstances. It could be due to past trauma. It could also be about circumstances that we're living now. Perhaps we're in a toxic or challenging environment. So it doesn't have to be something from the past. It could have been experience of abuse, or that we're experiencing abuse at the moment, neglect. Yes. So, and the history of our childhood developmental trauma. If we do have a history of childhood developmental trauma, as we're going to see, we're going to have higher chances, and there's a higher risk of cancer. And we're going to see how this relates to breast cancer. So we have adverse childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences, they are experiences that are lived between the years of birth to 17 years old. And there's a list of them. Some of them include whether there was violence in the household, whether the language that was used on you as a child, abuse, neglect, certain things that you may have witnessed as a child at home. Now, these adverse childhood experiences, and there's a questionnaire, a quiz that you can fill up to find out about your own childhood, they may be linked to getting cancer later in life. Not only cancer, also cardiovascular disease and other issues, but we're talking about cancer, and they may be linked to getting cancer later in life. The more adverse childhood experiences a person experiences, the more likely they are to suffer from cancer and other mental and chronic health problems. And it may affect cancer risk in several ways, including through unhealthy behaviors. Remember what I said to you in the previous slide, and chronic inflammation. The body is on a protection state. And because we want to protect ourselves from what happened to us in the past, then we develop certain unhealthy and possibly self-destructive behaviors that indirectly and in the long term, they're going to cause an increased risk of breast cancer. And why breast cancer? Well, females are more likely than males to report exposure to sexual abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect, alcohol, and drug abuse in the household. And household members had a serious mental health illness. So we are more likely to be exposed to this as women and young girls. Yes, this was a study, a very specific study on this. So these women, or if you are one of them, the risk of some forms of cancer, including breast cancer, increases. So is there something that you can do about it? Because if you say, well, I already had these experiences when I was a child or a young girl or a young woman, so does that mean that that's it, that I am predestined to develop breast cancer? Well, there are things that you can do to reduce this risk. And that is, you can read more about it. You can find out. We're going to give you some links that you can look at. And maybe perhaps you can do the quiz yourself to see if you have had these experiences. And it's quite an interesting quiz because you might not realize, you might think, oh, well, yeah, you know, my mom or my dad, they were always drinking. And then when you do this, when you ask this question, you go, oh, wait a minute, this is what was happening. So it's quite an interesting questionnaire. It's not very long. It's not very long. Just a few questions. And do the quiz, find out about it, and then make the decision, if you wish to speak to someone about it. Yes. And receive the appropriate guidance, counseling, or therapy that feels right for you. So we're not telling you to go on therapy if you had a parent who was alcoholic, or if there was some violent arguments at home, or you witnessed anything. We're not saying that at all. We're just saying, hey, here's the information. Find out a little bit more about it. If this is something that perhaps you want to do, then this could be the door that needed opening for you to reach out for help. And remember, when you find out about your own adverse childhood experiences, don't forget that that list of that questionnaire doesn't consider the positive experiences in early life that have helped you to build your resilience and that have helped you to be protected from the effects of trauma. This is possible. Not everybody who has been exposed to these stress factors and traumatizing events when they were a child, not all of them, not at all, are going to develop cancer. Remember, we've seen cases of people who, as a child, they were in a concentration camp, for example, or any other situations that were extreme, in war, in conflict, in situations of survival, and they did not develop cancer. It's a very complex process. Even just having a grandparent, an uncle, an auntie, a teacher who understands you, believed in you, a trusted friend, you had your best friend, you could always talk to them. You could actually, and you can mitigate the effects of early trauma. Yes. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you experience this, that you think to yourself, oh my God, then I've got really high risk of developing breast cancer. No, that's not the case. And as a matter of fact, if you had somebody in your life who you trusted, just one person, yes, or a friend or a group of friends, that might have been enough for you to mitigate, or let's just say to compensate the side effects of trauma. And actually, that made you stronger. However, if you are still in doubt and you think to yourself, well, I would like to speak to somebody after I'm learning about this, then do so, because it is important to compensate for the effect that trauma may have in our health, particularly if you have self-destructive behaviors and you can recognize them. You don't have to tell anybody yet. You can write it down and keep it to yourself and say, well, I know that I'm doing this, and therefore I will make an effort to make a phone call or look it up and find out someone who I can talk to. And when you tackle, deal with, and reduce those habits or patterns that may be self-destructive, you're going to reduce your risk of breast cancer. So it is worth it. Remember when we spoke at the beginning of the session on why? Why are you doing this? This is so important. Why do you want to change? Do you want to stop with those self-destructive patterns? You want to make some changes in your life? Yes, you make them, and there's many positive results. One of them will be the reduction, or yes, having less chances of developing breast cancer. And that might be very important for you. Now, meditation and mindfulness, the same as yoga. Yoga is yoga and meditation. It shouldn't be separated. Yes, when we yoga, meditation, yoga and mindfulness, some also relaxation practices, all under the same umbrella. But in the studies, they do separate them. And they have yoga as exercise, and then they have meditation and mindfulness and relaxation as a separate aspect. But again, meditation and mindfulness have not been found yet, because there's no studies of it, to help with the prevention of cancer. What they do know, and there are studies to show, is that meditation and mindfulness have been found to improve the states of anxiety and depression. And some, yeah, right, okay, well, anxiety states and also depression. Yes, we know that meditation and mindfulness, there's some studies coming up how they can help and support the individual. But there are no studies that are showing the association of these practices with the prevention of cancer, simply because they're not being done, or at least that we know of. Maybe they are being done. It's very possible, but there's nothing that has been published yet. However, meditation and mindfulness, as we said, may help mitigate the effects of stress, and therefore they will support our body systems to regulate. So indirectly, something like meditation and mindfulness may improve the overall health and possibly, remember, yeah, another different word, it doesn't say 100%, it doesn't say for sure, reduce the risk of cancer. Yes, more studies are needed in this field. So we still don't know. However, is there a problem? Is it going to be a terrible thing to do to introduce meditation and mindfulness in your life as a possibly preventive measure of developing breast cancer? There's no problem with it. However, if you suffer from a diagnosed mental health issue and you're taking medication, please remember that meditation and mindfulness can have adverse side effects. So please consult your mental health provider if you're going to take on meditation and mindfulness and you actually have a diagnosed mental health issue and you're taking medication for your mental health issue. Very, very important. People think that meditation and mindfulness is for everyone, and it is not. If you have a mental health issue and you're taking the medication for it, it may have adverse reactions. So really, really important that you consult first. So it can help us to reduce the stress factors, and as we see then the body systems work better. Cancer is a multifactorial complex issue. So it's not one thing, as we're going to see, it's a whole group of things that cause cancer, and in this case, breast cancer. So you cannot just use one intervention, but actually the combination of several changes, that is what's going to make a difference. So you decide, how do you want your ecosystem to look like? And you say, what ecosystem? What are you talking about? Well, your ecosystem, yes, your system of support, the system of support that you create for yourself. And for that, you're going to need also to have other people helping you. Exercise, remember, cardiovascular and strength training. Number one, those of them together, cardiovascular and strength training. So how often? 2-3 times a week, or a walk. Yes, 30 minutes a day. Yes. And a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of relaxation, a little bit of meditation. Yes, a little bit of self-reflection. Therapy, yes, speaking to somebody. Consult with your doctor. And if you don't like your doctor, go to another doctor if you can. Find the one that supports your ecosystem, your health. Take your own power. Don't go to a doctor and say, I just really don't like my doctor. My doctor really doesn't talk to me nicely. You as a woman, and in order to reduce your risk of breast cancer, you need to have the support and collaboration of a medical professional who resonates with you and who supports your health. Sleep. How do you want your sleep to look like? Yes. And your nutrition, what you eat, how you go to the grocery store. What do you want to eat? Yes, we have it out there that it tells us whole foods, non-processed food. We know a lot of the additives in food may be carcinogens. Yes, carcinogen means that they may cause cancer. Yes, they may increase the risk of cancer in some cases. So how do you want your food to look like on your plate? How do you want your life to look like, to be like? And this is your ecosystem. And this is something that you create. You have some information here, yes, that you can use in order to make your decisions. And you don't have to change everything at once, of course not. This looks very nice, all these things, very pretty, but you don't have to change everything at once because there's also your life, yes. So take time to read the information we share with you here. We're also going to facilitate some documents for you, not only this presentation, but also links to research. Read it carefully. Write down, what you need. What is it that you want? Remember the car? Yes, you may need the car and you want a supercar, but maybe you can't. Yes. So, what is it that realistically you can integrate in your life? You can say, you know what? I can, from now on, not buy any sugary drinks. I can, from now on, do mindfulness every morning, in the morning, before everybody gets up. I can go for a walk with my best friend 3 times a week in the park. What is it that you can integrate realistically into your life? But let me share with you something. You're going to need to be a little bit active here, because it's very easy to say, I don't have time. I don't have time. Now, if this is a priority for you, yes, to reduce the risk of breast cancer and perhaps to pass on this message to your family, your daughter, your mother, then you're going to need to take action. So then you're going to make a decision of say, you know what, instead of sitting down in front of the TV, drinking a glass of wine every night after work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a walk. And guess what? I'm not going to drink alcohol Monday to Thursday. You are going to have to make those decisions, but it will be your choice on what you want to do. Begin small. Today, I'm going to eat all the rainbows. Yes. Or this week, I'm going to go and do some weightlifting or strength training 2 days. Yes, Tuesday and Thursday. Or today, I'm going to call my doctor, or today I'm going to look for a mental health professional to help me with what's going on in my life. One thing at a time, and stick to it rather than many of them. Implement small, easy changes each day, one thing at a time, because otherwise you're going to react against it. For instance, eat 3 vegetables a day for a week. Yeah, if you're somebody who doesn't like vegetables, then say, you know what, this week I'm going to eat at least 3 vegetables of different colors. And for big changes, such as giving up alcohol or giving up smoking, you need to consult your doctor, because there are prescribed ways that you can do it. There are processes. You may join support groups. There are protocols. So if you want to make a huge change, you say, okay, that's it. I choose not to drink alcohol, or I choose not to smoke. Then it's always better to get help from a professional to do this. Involve your family of friends and friends. I mean, who doesn't want to reduce the risk of breast cancer? If you go to your family and you say, hey, I want to reduce my risk of breast cancer, and you speak to your partner and you say, we're only going to have alcohol on Saturday night because I want to reduce my risk of breast cancer. I don't think your partner is going to say, well, maybe might say, what, are you crazy? You know, that's a crazy idea. Get them to listen. Speak out and say, this is what I want to do, and I want to be supported, and I need your help. Speak to your friends, organize a walk, maybe to walk regularly, or to say Saturday mornings we go for a run together. We're going to laugh because none of us have run for a long time or ever, and we're just going to go and run a couple of kilometers together. Share it with others. Speak to your daughter and say, I want to reduce the risk of my breast cancer. And your daughter is going to participate, or at least to be inspired by you, and say, so from now on, we're going to have, say, for example, more vegetables and more salads. And you explain to your family the reason why. And always the decisions that you make, be informed by science, i.e., go to have your blood test, health checkups before you take on any changes in your life. Yes, you can, some of them, as we've seen, you can take them on. You can go for walks, you can swim, you can do yoga, you can increase the amount of vegetables that you eat, etc., etc. But if you think that some of your decisions are a little bit, if they're a little bit more radical, like saying, I'm going to stop smoking. If you stop smoking, you might get depressed, or you might put on weight, and you might need support, and you need to be informed about your own health. So you can have those tests done. Make your appointment with your doctor. And consistency is the key. So even if you change one thing, if you say, okay, the only thing that I know I want to change, because, you know, it's something that is not, yeah, it can increase my risk of breast cancer, and I want to get rid of it. A tiny little thing, yes. If you want to just make that change, it could be saying, okay, I want to eat more oily fish or increase my omega-3 and from now on extra virgin olive oil. Stick to that one thing and keep it. Be consistent with that. So it's better to stick to one small goal consistently to a lot of goals inconsistently. So don't go, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, and then you don't do any. Yes. So sticking to one, that might be helpful and empowering as well. And never, ever feel guilty. Never feel guilty if you can't or you don't want to change things. If you say, I don't want to stop drinking my glass of wine after work because it relaxes me and it makes me feel good, do not feel guilty, because guilt and shame actually are maybe going to make things worse. So just remember, many factors are involved in breast cancer and in our health overall. So eating a cake and not exercising for a couple of days, even for a month, is not going to cause breast cancer. So if you're eating that chocolate cake, enjoy it. And don't think to yourself, oh my God, I'm eating a chocolate cake, I'm going to get breast cancer. Please don't do that. It has to be for years. And the changes will come. The first thing that you need to know, first of all, is the information. And we're giving you some information here. As you can see, there is not masses of evidence, and not all of it is 100% sure. None of the science-based evidence is perfect, but we do know that even though sometimes it's not so easy to interpret, and sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, that some changes in the way that we eat can have an effect on our risk of developing breast cancer, that we have broken through some myths such as, hey, yes, okay, cancer cells do eat of sugar, but they can also eat of other stuff as well. So having a completely sugar-free diet is not going to 100% prevent you from getting breast cancer or from curing it. So a little bit in moderation, it's okay, because, for example, fruit has sugar and it has incredible benefits for our health. So read the information carefully, yes, and use it for yourself, for who you are, and share it with others. This is very important. If you can, when you receive this information or the link to the recording, share it with as many women as possible. Maybe share it with your partners, husbands, boyfriends, brothers, fathers, because it's also important that they understand this. Because a lot of the times they see a woman in the family making changes, and then they go, she goes again into this, she's now doing yoga, or now she's going to the gym. Tell them why. Tell them why you are doing it. So, I want to thank you for listening. You're going to receive this presentation. I try to make it as clear and as basic as possible. When you go through the science-based information that is out there, studies, research, etc., some of it is very complex, and it takes time to analyze, to interpret it, to say, okay, what does this mean? There's a lot of the tables with information, with numbers, with formulas, and there's different journals, and then of course the contradiction of the research, and some of it says one thing and another one, well, actually is not conclusive. And then there's peer review. Peer review means that the scientific community is going to review that particular study, and that is quite important, because that means, again, that somebody has said something and said, okay, in my study I found this about breast cancer, and then their peers are going to check it out and are going to see, is this right? So, and cancer is complex. Cancer is very complex. You cannot say A is B. There's a few things and a few carcinogens that we know for sure, like smoking, cigarettes, asbestos, yes, that they may, and they know that they cause cancer. And yet there's people who smoke who never developed cancer, not breast cancer and not even lung cancer. So pay attention, read, and but most important of all, think. think about yourself. Think about, I want to reduce my risk of breast cancer. I don't want to not do anything about it. I have children, I have husband, I have work, I have family. I don't want to not do anything. I want to do something to reduce my risk of breast cancer. We've offered you information, things that you can do, one by one, step by step. Don't overdo it. Or perhaps you're the kind of person that says, that's it, I'm going to change my ecosystem completely. Tell the people around you, yes. Inform them, inform your doctor, talk, look for help for mental health issues if you have some self-destructive habits or behaviors that perhaps could increase your risk of breast cancer. And to celebrate this Breast Cancer Awareness Month for all of our sisters, mothers, daughters, we're here all together. And this is such a vital work for us and for you and your loved ones. I wish you all, yes, a wonderful, wonderful evening, a wonderful Sunday. I know that some of you will be watching this from the recording, and I want to send lots of love and lots of courage and empowerment for you to read this, listen to this, and make your own decisions. Thank you, and lots of love from me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye-bye.